Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Salute, Knick family. Welcome to the Just Knickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen. And as always, we have a lot to talk about. Bridges has been taking a lot of heat. We're going to talk about that. How much of that is just because of his play and how much more is he getting because of how much we gave up to get him. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Mitchell Robinson's impact and his, I think it's been 3 games back. We'll talk about the upcoming West Coast trip, and then whatever else comes our way from the chat or from Ajay and Delusional, we'll talk about it. But Ajay, Delusional, how you feeling? And we got to talk about the Golden State game.
Oh, do we?
Or not?
Oh, no. Delusional, you go, man. After you, sir.
Oh, I appreciate that. All is good. It's good here to talk Knicks. So I'm definitely ready to talk about that Golden State Warriors game. But let's knock it out. Look, I'm in my suit and tie. Came straight from work. I am ready for business tonight.
Yeah, same here, man. Always a pleasure to be here with you, Queens, Delusional, and shout out to Geoff, Jerrell. But always a pleasure and always fun talking about the Knicks, man. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
There's a game at 10 o'clock, so
yeah. Shout out to the chat. We appreciate you and the replay gang, of course. I don't forget you, replay gang. Let's start with Golden State before we get into Bridges. Yeah, I'm just gonna say what stood out. Let's just start easy. Let's ease our way into it. What stood out to you in that game? Delusional, we'll go with you first, and then Ajay, if you don't mind. Let Delusional.
Oh no, I don't mind, man. Come on, the man said he's in suit and tie, man. He goes first.
No, I appreciate that, guys. Appreciate it. What stood out to me? Besides coaching, I know we kind of try to stray away from that aspect, talking about
we don't have to
kids, but it's definitely we got out coached. It's certain instances I saw on defense that it's just like basic get back, line up with your guy. We've had multiple wide open 3-pointers with that in the second half. It was just miscommunication after miscommunication. Ultimately, we fought through the first half, but that second half was something weird. Like even you stated earlier, was the offense. Our offense just don't look right. Even though Cat was out, which is something that you said, but the offense just is. It literally felt like we've only ran like maybe 3 sets out of the entire time, and a lot of it was either ISO or just give it to OG, chucking up 3-pointers. We barely got into the paint. The very first game was a pass to Mitch. Mitch got that M1 dunk. There's been certain instances where I saw Mitch was literally had Draymond under the rim while he was boxing out, waiting for the ball. Josh Hart did not pass on the ball. There was a couple of plays of where that happened. I'm like, feed the paint. You have a smaller team on you. Feed the paint. Let's see how that reacts, because they're going to have to drop down. Now you can get easier baskets. We could not find easier baskets in that second half whatsoever. And then, of course, it took Tibbs late in the game to even try to make some adjustments. The biggest adjustments for me was Josh Hart. That was a night where Josh Hart didn't have it going on many scales. He was wide open on certain threes that he was hesitant to take. And then the shots that he did take were either wide off or was banking first in the paint off the rim. Put in Deuce at that moment, right? Create some more space where they have to commit to someone. They literally double teamed Jalen for most of the second half, completely took him out the game. He was irrelevant in the second half. And this is a guy that we all depend on. Just the night before was Captain Clutch. We were waving the flag going in on his great performance. And then for this to happen, and then for Steph to get it going in the second quarter, him shaking and shimmering on ESPN, those moments, once again, guys, I only get frustrated when it's those national televised games where everybody's watching and we have something to prove. That's the only time that you really see me get upset. On certain losses, I'm cool. We can afford to lose. We're literally 40-21. One of the best records, coming out of the half that we've had in years. So yes, I'm excited about that. But it's games like this, and when we get out coach and one of our best players was down, we still had Mikal. We still had other players that I believe could have stepped up and helped us. That wasn't the case.
Yeah. Ajay, what stood out for you?
Well, first of all, I'm never cool on losses ever. Delusional, but losing to Golden State Warriors is that there's an extra pinch, like an extra pain, because not only it has one of my least favorite players ever in basketball in Draymond Green, and then now they have Jimmy Butler, another one of my least favorite players. So now I'm losing to these two guys that I can't stand. And Draymond, I like, what a guy, man. Like, why he gets away with all kind of stuff. He kicks, he punches. You ever seen him set picks? He set picks that in football would be a personal foul. No, like he grabs and hold on to you. Like in the NFL, those would be called personal foul, but he gets away with them. I don't understand how this is even possible in the NBA. Like, what are these refs looking at? But anyway, listen, I like Steph Curry. Unfortunately, he's one of my favorite players to watch. Very entertaining, but he plays with these two guys that I can't stand somehow, and I can't get to enjoy games, of course. But of course, he goes off. But Delusional, aside from our offense, and I don't like, we have a terrible offensive game, but our defense was particularly bad also. And I mean, here we are playing a team, I mean, who have probably two of the top 5 3-point shooters in the league on that team. And we come and play the same way we play every night, with those guys. And, and we're lucky. I mean, this could have been a worse blowout. It could have been a blowout if Buddy Hield had a good, like a, not even good, like a typical first half. Yeah. Like if he had a regular Buddy Hield first half, this could have been a slaughter. You know what I'm saying? So we literally got away in the first quarter. So you figure the second half they would come, because that was a very winnable game. And we came out even more flat in the second quarter. So we missed out on an opportunity to win a game, which was very, very winnable for us. Had we been able to play 48 minutes, but we just were not able to play 48 minutes. And I'm talking about even without Cat, we should have been able to win that game.
I agree.
So, I mean, listen, we know we have problem on the defense. It's frustrating when we know we have the problem, and these guys, they come out flat on the defensive end. Like you don't see the effort. I've seen countless times these guys, they're guarding with their hands down. Like, what kind of defense is that? They're not moving their feet. Their hands are down. You're basically a traffic cone out there by doing that. Like, if you're not doing any of those things, like, what are you doing? So yeah, it was pretty frustrating. I didn't want to look next week for a revenge game on the road, but unfortunately, that's what we got to do. We got to go out there and beat them, and we will.
All right, I appreciate. I love your confidence. A few things stood out for me. That our defense is not good, and it doesn't matter who's there. Like, so, the idea that, Mitchell Robinson himself is just going to do it, I just don't think that's the case. These guys are just not on a string. That defensive, part of it could be scheme, but part of it is also execution as well. They're a team that they're small. They spread you out, right? So, and this is what we used to do. So they're a small team. So you either have to match them and go small yourself, or if you go big, now your big is out of the key and is not really a rim protector, and there's a lot of space. And there's a lot of space. So when you're trying to rotate, you got to cover a lot of ground when there's space like that, where you really have to be out on shooters. And so you notice the backdoor cuts, because there was space to do that. So the cutting lanes, the passing lanes, all of that was available. And we can get on the Knicks and we should, but their spacing creates problems. And if you don't have if your defense is not on the string, it's just not going to work. And that's they reminded me of who we used to be the first maybe 40, 45 games of the season, where we would spread teams out like that. And we would be able to take advantage of the cutting lanes and the passing lanes and the driving lanes, because their guys were just too far away to rotate and stop a drive, right? Or to rotate and stop the cutter. What stood out for me is that in the playoffs, an offense that's Brunson centric. Listen, I'm not gonna get down on Brunson. I've seen Brunson in the playoffs create for himself, create for others, and be the one guy creating for everybody, and we still be successful. But that's a long road. That's a tough road. That's a lot of wear and tear. That's a lot of energy from a player. Where on this particular team, where we were so happy that we're getting shooters and we're getting, secondary ball handlers and Bridges, that Brunson shouldn't, and we're getting Cat. Brunson shouldn't have to work as hard as he does. And in the beginning of the season, he wasn't working that hard. Now he's working like a Trojan, so which is reminiscent of last season and the season before. So we talked about this a little bit on the Queen's Court. Our offense has become a bit more Brunson-centric. Obviously, Cat was out. Even when Cat is here, it's much more Brunson-centric. It could be the thumb, the knee, that Cat can't really do what he was doing for us earlier. Maybe that's the reason. Like, I'm trying to figure out why the offense has shifted. The other thing that stood out, and this is going to happen in the playoffs, when teams go small, we're going to have to match them. It doesn't make sense to have Mitchell Robinson out there when they come small, because they're going to pull him away from the basket anyway, right? So you're not going to have the rim protection. I'm already in postseason mode. So whenever I'm looking at these games, I'm looking at, like, what if other teams do that to us? Is Brunson going to be able to do this in the playoffs for 16 games? If we're talking to, this is kind of, where I'm at. And to your point, Delusional, and I go back and forth, and we've had this discussion multiple times. How much of it is Brunson? How much of it is Tibbs? And how much of it is both of them? Like, I just don't get where the Knicks, we're going to get into this more with Bridges as well. The players they have, I feel like we could get more out of this offense. I just feel like we can get more out of this offense. You want to put a big on, and I'm not saying this happened in the Golden State game. You want to put a big on Josh Hart, automatically we going Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson pick and roll. That's just automatic. I just, and I said this in the very beginning, the Knicks have to get better with their recognition. You're not teams that are not great, you can get away with stuff like this. When you come against the really good teams, you can't be leaving meat on the bone. Like, you can't just not take advantage of opportunities. And I feel like the Knicks, as talented as they are, they have high IQ players, don't get me wrong. I just feel like they not surgical. They not operating with precision on the offensive end in terms of their decision making, their recognition, their execution. And some of that got to go with Brunson, yes, but Thibodeau as well. Like, don't forget taking advantage of the mismatches. Hunt them. Hunt the mismatches over and over and over again until they figure out how to stop it. And it's just not something that we do. And I feel like we make it easier for teams to defend us. That wasn't the case earlier in the season. That's definitely the case. That's definitely the case now.
Mind if I piggy off that? On the offensive end, you're 100% correct. What I realized, and pretty much Jalen kind of clarified it on his show, that Tibbs let them do what they do on offense. There's no necessarily, like, of course you have your basic set plays that they run where I forgot the name of the set that they do at the top, where it's the 3 players at the top and they switch and they drop it, then they cut, and then of course it leads to usually an ISO play. But a lot of our players just kind of sit on the wing or either wait for it to come to them, and then last second they create for themselves. So Tibbs doesn't necessarily create like how Golden State created. Like when you saw that game, you saw the difference of where, hey guys, we're not scoring, let's run this set. 3 times in a row they ran set plays, and each time it was a bucket. Now that would lead into my segment on the defensive end, right? We know that Golden State is a heavily offensive cutting movement offense, right? We've seen them countless times play the Cavs in the finals, right? How did the Cavs defeat them? Right? They switched everything. You legit switch everything to counter these cuts so that there's no confusion. From the game, from the game plan, looked like it was Mikal, stick on Curry. Don't worry about anything else, right? And he was gassed running through those screens trying to get around the stuff. And then there was certain times of where he gets stuck, leaves another player open because everyone collapsed to Curry. Now you have other players knocking down open threes. If you would switch on those occasions, it would counter that, right? Now, as a head coach, wouldn't that in your mind remotely go at least one time when you went small with Precious? Let's switch everything, right? Let's switch to at least on Curry so we can combat that. That didn't happen. Queen, I'm in the crib just smacking the ball that I destroyed. I'm like, yo, what is going on, Tim?
Oh my God, that poor ball, man. You abusing that ball? Still abusing that ball?
Yeah. Look, if it was in my office right now, I'll show you guys. But it's crazy. So it's like the coaching, like Tibbs, you got to do that. And mind you, whenever he calls timeout, what happened? They run an out of timeout action, OTA action, and we score. Why we just can't do that majority of the time? Get some decent plays. Like you said, seek out these players. There's been plenty of times that you'll see Cat on a smaller person, right? Open. My man JB do his thing. He'll get the bucket. But I'm like, you got to work extra hard, right? And then even when he needs to bring the ball up, JB, you don't got to bring the ball up all the time. In Dallas, Luka brought that ball up. What did you do? You started on the wing. Then you came up and did your flare actions and started to get to work. You don't have to bring the ball up all the time. I would rather put Mikal Bridges, bring that ball up, start that action. This is another person that can initiate the pick and roll. Players will have to get up on that. When we give Josh the ball to bring it up, Queen, do you think I need to press up on top or give him space at the 3-point line when he initiating that? No, I'm going to double JB because I know you want to give him the ball back, right? That's causing extra work on that end that if I see it, Tibbs have to see it. Where's the adjustment? And this is why I say he probably just let JB do what he wants out there because he has the trust in JB. But then, like you said, it should be to JB to say, hey, let's do this while we're on the floor. I just think he gave them way too much leeway on the offensive end to produce. Right. And I don't know what happened on defense. I clearly don't know what happened with Tibbs on defense.
Right. Well, I think players matter too. Schemes matter too. Execution matters. But yeah, I think that, certain teams you can give that offensive latitude to, and you would think on this team you would be able to, because these are like high IQ guys. But I'm with you though. When the offense gets bogged down, like then we gotta go to a set. We gotta. But this is the thing though. Even if you go to a set, you still reading off the set. Like even if you go to a set, that's how you're going to start the play. But what you actually do is still going to come down to reading how the defense reacts to it. I mean, so no matter how you start, it's really about you gotta read what the defense is doing and make the correct pass off of that, off of that read. And we just don't do it. Lately, we haven't been doing it well enough. Earlier in the season, we have, but I think Cat not being who he was for whatever reason, and us not going through that's changing everything. I think also Josh Hart, he's at his best with space. He's at, so with Cat, he had that space. He was like what? Top of the league, historic numbers, career numbers, I should say, for him in the paint, points in the paint. That leading the league in 2-point, because it wasn't all fast break points, because we know he's good at that as well. It was him cutting into the paint. Cat is out. He's in there with Precious Achua. That cuts that down, right? That really changes his role as well. So, and Cat is not at the top of the key as much anymore for whatever reason. So he's not stretching. That impacts Hart's game as well. And on top of that, Josh Hart has just decided that he's going to return to circa 2023 and hesitating, not taking every shot, not looking confident in his shot. Like to start the season, this guy was, first of all, he was shooting a career high in 3-point percentage. Volume wasn't at, where I would have liked to have seen it, but, he was, shooting it well, but he wasn't hesitating. Now, all of a sudden, it's something different. I don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it. And we're gonna have issues offensively and defensively in the playoffs. Yeah.
Tibbs might be tricking us though. It was a thought process that I thought about that. He's in a football reference. You see how regular season they have certain plays that they bring out during the regular season. Then of course there's time up into the playoffs, and then when the playoffs come, you see different sets that you haven't seen during the playoffs. And you saw that when he initiated Hartenstein into the offense, how you magically saw plays that we didn't see before.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so you guys had this in the bag. You just waited for a certain player, a certain situation. So maybe that, like I said, that this could be the delusional aspect in my brain that just kind of like, let's just give Tibbs that courtesy, and maybe that could be it. But we got to do something.
Basically, you're asking him to take the decision making from the players. If not all the way, at least some, to insert, yeah. The game is going to tell you what to do. I agree, but you got to do what the game is, telling you to, what the game is telling you to do. But we're just not a good offense. We're not a good defensive team. You got to be on a string, and we're just not. And Golden State, they really stretch you out and make it really difficult for you to, like these backdoor cuts. I'm like, what are you looking at? Yeah, that I think Brunson had like 2 points in the third quarter. The Knicks were outscored by 20 in the in the second half. Now, we were without Cat. I do think Cat makes a difference for us. So we can't just say, oh, it doesn't make a difference, because it does. But man. Yeah. All right. I've had enough of Golden State. But it's talking about Golden State is basically talking about our offense and talking about our defense overall. I mean, anything else before we get into Mikal Bridges?
Well, let's do it.
One quick thing about the Golden State game, though.
I see you want to prolong the pain. Go ahead.
No. And I want to bring this up. Shout out to East Blue Drew. What was that about? Did you see that play? That foul on Josh Hart? It was like a drop kick or something. I don't know what that was. I'm like, what's this guy doing out there?
No, that's what he always do.
I can't stand that guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's not whatever. Let's keep going.
All right.
I don't like him. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to the chat and those that's watching. Appreciate you on Dios NYK, always rocking with us. Nick Nation, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, sit back and enjoy the show. Yeah, for sure. Is the so Mikal Bridges, not playing well, I guess. Definitely not closing, not closing games. For me, it's just a bad stretch. Players have bad stretches. Even Josh Hart is going through a bad stretch right now. Do you see it as a bad stretch? Well, I got like so many questions. Is the criticism you're hearing about Bridges fair? Or do you think he's just going through a bad stretch? And that's for the chat, and Ajay, will start with you.
Well,
and it could be both.
Yeah. So, and I know that by criticism you mean like because we gave up so much to acquire him, right?
You could put that in your answer too, but there's just a lot of criticism for Knick fans about Mikal Bridges. He should go to the bench. We should, obviously, when he plays, he doesn't play well. The picks we gave up come up as well.
Right. So he's not playing well. So I don't know if it's a bad stretch or a bad fit, or it's just gonna take some time for him to adjust to this new situation. I'm leaning towards a bad stretch. I mean, because it's this guy's a professional ball player. He's been in the league, for many years now. Adjusting to the team. I mean, it takes time, but it doesn't take that long. Especially you had training. You were here for training camp and all that stuff. So, it's probably having a bad stretch, and I do expect and hope that that changes pretty soon. I think he's going to be pivotal in our postseason run. So if Mikal Bridges is having a bad postseason, we're going to have a very short one, I think, because they're not going to be able to make up to what we're expecting of him. Okay, so I just think he's having a bad stretch, and hopefully that he'll come out of that.
Yeah, before I move on to Delusional, what is it we want to see from Mikal Bridges? Like, what is it that you want to see that you haven't seen, if anything?
So, and first of all, consistency. Okay. And personally, I'd like to see him every game either have a good offensive game or a good defensive game. If he could have a little bit of both, I'm fine with that too. But we have games where he has neither. A lot of games where, he's getting whoever he's guarding is going off, is just doing whatever they want out there, and he's not scoring on the other end. So we have games where he's literally out there running cardio and trying to get through picks and not doing much. I'd like to see him have a good game on either end. It could be he's only scoring 7-8 points, but whoever he's guarding a superstar, keep him under, half of what he would normally score. You know what I'm saying? So
no.
Queen.
I mean,
maybe a bit demanding, but at least make them work. It can't be you out there. It can't be you out there and then they scoring, they do whatever they want on you. You running up and down and not doing anything. And then on the other end, you're not making them work hard, on defense either. So you have a guy who's fresh on one end, on the defensive end, because Mikal Bridges is not doing nothing. And then on the other end, you can't stop him. So you got to do one of the two. You can't just be out there not doing anything.
Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. I think to say he's not doing anything,
he's trying, but he's not successful at it. So the end result is almost like he's not doing anything. So it's not like he's not trying. He is playing hard, try to defend. It's just not working out well.
Yeah. So I think that, because he's not playing well now, and we'll get into what that means. People take that and stretch it that he just hasn't played well all season, and his defense hasn't been good. Let's just say the past two, like his defense is just guys are just doing whatever they want to do, and I just don't think that's the case. I think there are times when he has really good defensive games and he's fighting over screens and he's making it difficult for guys. Listen, the players that he's guarding, I mean, this is like the best players in the league that he's guarding game in and game out, fighting over screen. Like, that's not an easy job. You know what I mean? Steph Curry,
Ja,
Trey Young. Like, these are not easy. You're not shutting them down. What you want to do is make it difficult for them to catch the ball. If you can, maybe they shoot a lower percentage. Maybe even if they get 30, they had to take more shots, right? To get 30, they're not efficient. But that's not an easy job. And we want him to drop 20 a night on the offensive end. So I know Delusional is here. Let me get this out.
no, do you think?
I think, how much of it is his play, and I don't think he's having a terrible season by any stretch, right? But we want him to do so much more, and he's not doing it. So is that what him and lack of confidence? Is that because he's doing so much on the defensive end? Like, how much can you expect to get out of him on the offensive end? How much of it is not using him properly on the offensive end, which is what I'm leaning into? I think we can get much more out of Mikal Bridges if we used him differently. Now, I'm not going to say I know the ins and outs of an NBA offense. Let's get that clear. I don't. And those who are smarter than me, be sure to leave it in the chat, leave replay gang, comment below. But I feel like we can get more out of him, offensively if we use him, if we use him differently. But I'm not going to bang on somebody who has to guard the best players game in and game out. He doesn't, on offense. I heard somebody say, oh, he takes a fade away instead of leaning into contact. That's his game. Like, you can't get on somebody for playing their game. Like, that's their game. He's going to get in the mid-range. He's going to shoot a fadeaway. He's not shooting a fadeaway because he's afraid of contact. Like, that's his game. So, I don't know. I just feel like we too hard on him. I'm not sure what our expectations were. And I think it's fair to say he hasn't met whatever expectation you had of him. But he should be benched, and he should be like I just feel like we going too far on the Bridges thing, and in my opinion. Delusional?
No, Queen, I pretty much second everything you stated. As a player who's on both ends, like you stated, you're literally guarding the best perimeter players out there, from Ja Morant to, you got to stick with Trey Young, to Fox, to, I mean, countless, all the best pretty much point guards or two guards that's out there. That's his game plan or player that he has to guard that night. So to run around and guard, and do all of that, and it seems like the scheme is for him to be that initial stopper. There's no, okay, you got this help, we trapping here, we doing that. It's him trying to lock up. And then, of course, for him to come and get these buckets on the other end when the offense doesn't necessarily have a set for you, it's tough. It's tough. I'm gonna be completely honest. So my game, when I played, I was a shooter and I played defense. So I guess I'm a 3-and-D type player. Mm-hmm. So there's games of where if I'm locking up this player, right, and he's not doing what he's not doing, and I'm not getting my touches, I'm going to feel some type of way because I'm locking up, I'm running around, I'm shutting this player down. And you mean to tell me I can't get a flare, I can't get a screen, I can't get a back cut, when I'm doing all of this? And there's been periods of where, yes, he'll get his 13 shots. He's not a 13 shots player. Mikal needs about 18 to 20 shots per game. and he's still efficient. Let's kind of bring us some stats to the last couple games, right? Let's see. Golden State game, efficient game, 7 for 15, only had a 15 attempts, but 1 for 5 for 3. That's not efficient. But granted, if I'm hustling around and doing all of that, I'm gonna probably be burnt. Right. Next game against Miami, that definitely wasn't too good. It was 2 for 11, but still 11 attempts. Who he had to guard? What's that? What's the
Hero?
Hero had to guard Hero, so that's another player that you have to chase around, come over screens and flare. So that's going to be a tough night. All the other nights, 7 for 15, 50%, 12 for 18, 66%, 6 for 13, 46, 6 for 13, another 46, 6 for 16 was another bad game, but we won in Chicago, was 6 for 16, right? He's not getting those touches, and they're definitely going to be difficult running around and playing defense. So I think I will give him some slack, because there's games of where he's gotten the 8-second call on us that literally won us the game, against what it was, the Grizzlies. That was solid defense. But is that a play that we're going to talk about? No.
And the block. Don't forget the block.
And the block against Chicago. So I wouldn't say he's having a bad stretch. It's just how Tibbs is using him. Tibbs is another thing. I know I'm gonna bring up something old that I probably won't agree with, was Cam Reddish. When we brought Cam Reddish in, Tibbs wanted to utilize him on a defensive end, was that initial defender. That's not him. Put him on the wing. He can give you some wing defenders and be good on that. So you telling Mikal to do that all the time. He did that in spurts in Phoenix, right? When he went to the Nets, he wasn't playing. JB and them laugh. He wasn't playing that much defense. He was getting his buckets. So Tibbs is wanting him.
What we're missing in that equation, and nobody talks about, is because Jalen Brunson can't guard.
Correct.
Because Jalen Brunson can't guard point guards. Now, Bridges has to play out of his position and play the point of attack. And everybody wants to look at Bridges and how he's not doing a good job and how he can't go navigate screens, and he's gotten better with that. But nobody wants to point out the fact that he's in that position because Jalen Brunson can't guard his position. And you got to hide Jalen Brunson on a power forward. And that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
And thank you for reading the stats. For all the energy that he puts out, he's pretty efficient. He's, except for that 11 for 20, he's shooting, I think, 49% on the season, 48.8%, if I'm not mistaken, on the season. I'm surprised he's even getting 15 shots. And he's shooting pretty efficient. So what I'm saying is, absolutely, he's had bad defensive games. Absolutely, he's had bad offensive games. But you can look at Jalen Brunson and say the same thing about JB. You can look at Josh Hart and say the same thing about Josh Hart. You can look at even Deuce McBride, whose shooting has been hot and cold throughout the season. His defense has been pretty consistent, but his shooting has been hot and cold. You can look at any player on this team, and there have been games in which they just wasn't themselves, either offensively or defensively. So I wonder, are we picking him out because the Knicks are third in the East? So I was going to say because we're not first in the East. You know what I mean? Are we picking him out because we've yet as a fan base to come to terms with the fact that the Knicks thought he was worth 5 draft picks? Would we be on him today with the same performance over this past week had we just gave up 1 or 2 draft picks? Would the fervor, would the criticism still be the same?
Queen, I think that really factors into the harsh criticism and the high expectation. And somebody in the chat mentioned that Knicks fan acting like they never seen Mikal Bridges play before. Like, he's been in the league forever. We've seen him play, and he's not, you can't really compare because it's a different environment. He doesn't have Booker, with him. He doesn't have Chris Paul. You can't really compare. It's a different,
Cam Johnson as well.
Yeah, Cam Johnson, DeAndre Ayton. It was a different team. So he had a different role. Like, you can't really compare the two. Okay, and even when he went to Brooklyn, it was a different surrounding. So he has to. It's a different environment. He's got to adjust to that. But I do think that the was it 5 or 6 picks we gave up for him? I don't know. I feel like we gave up.
I think it was like 5 in a swap.
5 in a swap. I think people expect more for that kind of.
But what though? I think that's so unfair. Like, what are you?
It
because
is
he gave
unfair.
up 5 picks. He's not the first option on this team. He's not the second option on this team. He's the 3rd or 4th option on this team. So how many points do you have to score to justify 5 picks and you're not the first option? You're going to score 30? He's not the first option on it. So I guess then this is for the chat as well. How can you justify 5 picks statistically when you have a defined role and you're not Jalen Brunson where the ball is in your hand all the time? How do you? What are we looking for? 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and like, what are we looking for to justify the 5 picks? Like, to me, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. This is what we gave up. You're here. This is your role. I need you to shine in your role. I don't need you to shine brighter because we gave up 5 picks. I just need you to shine in your role.
The reason why people kind of go back and forth on the pick aspect is because of players that are now starting to come available, and we don't have the additional assets to go and get these certain players. So then that's when they come to play and will say, well, we would have had these picks if we didn't such and such. And honestly, that's just the price that we had to pay, particularly to make a trade with same conference team, same state team. So it's just the tax that we had to pay regarding that. Sometimes I do question that, maybe we could have saved at least one more and held on. But, that initial team, like, when you look at the initial trade, the only player that we really gave up was Bojan Bogdanovic, who technically was hurt, and picks to bring forth here. So we really didn't lose anybody, that's significant. Like, we lost when we had to, we got rid of RJ and quickly. Like, those trades hurt a little bit more because we had to get rid of something. Or even the Cat trade, still to this day, that initial team, if we would have stayed, I think would have been good. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the tax.
And to your point, you're going to give up more draft picks if you're not giving up a rotation player. Now, if the Knicks would have gave up a rotation player, maybe they could have got away with 3 picks. But, if you're not giving up any rotation players and you're giving up scraps, or, veteran players who are going to be on the back of your bench and they're not going to play that much, probably not going to be in your rotation, a team is not going to accept that in 2 picks. You want to give me 3 picks, then you're going to have to give me one of your main guys. If you're not going to give me one of your main guys, then this is going to be a pick heavy trade. That's just the trade-off. How much of what we're seeing from him or not seeing from him on the offensive end is his own doing in terms of not being aggressive, and how much of it is the role that he's in, you think? Ajay Dental.
Boy, it's probably the role that he's in, because I don't. It doesn't seem to me like he's not aggressive. Because he takes the shots, he drives, put that little midi. It's just I think the role that he's in, because I think Tibbs primarily see him as a defensive player. Just put him there for defense. It's like, whatever we get from you on offense is good, but just play defense. That's what I think. I think it's just primarily what they tell him to do. But of course, as an NBA player, naturally you'd probably want to score the ball. So, which is why, sometimes he goes on, and a lot of times you see him like he's hot. I forgot what game he had, like 20 points in the first quarter and said like 0 in the second quarter. They went away from him. So it's just a role that he's in. I don't want to say anything about the coach. I'm just saying it's just the role that he's in. It's just it is what it is, and that was weird. I can't remember what game what was that. What game was that? But anyway, he scored 19 points in the first quarter, then completely disappeared. In the second half.
Yeah, you may have something there that's just not, you know, not his role. Listen, there's always going to be some trade-offs, right? So now if he becomes, say, for example, your second leading scorer, and you're counting on him from offense, then he can't be playing the point of attack. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be some trade-offs. And before I get to Delusional, I will say, because I hear this in the chat, it's not his fault the Knicks gave up 5 picks. So why should he feel pressure to do more? The Knicks front office gave up 5 picks. So my expectations is not going to increase for him because the Knicks gave up 5 picks. That was the Knicks' choice. And a lot of times when you give up picks, you're not giving up picks for scoring. Maybe they gave up those picks because they knew they needed to have somebody next to Brunson that could defend the point of attack, and they thought he could, and they felt because of that, he was worth that. Maybe they weren't looking at him to come in and be a secondary ball handler, which when they made the trade, I thought that would be his role in place of Julius Randle. I actually thought that. But maybe that's not what they were thinking his role would be. As a front office, you're looking at your team and it's like a puzzle. And you're like, how much I want to pay for this piece? I always go back to the Milwaukee Bucks and how much they gave up for Drew Holiday. I was like, what? But for where they were and they looking at their chessboard, this was the piece that was going to get them over the hump, complete the puzzle. And they overpaid, so to speak. But for them, for what he was going to do for them, it was appropriate. Maybe whether we agree or not, maybe that's what the front office thought when they looked at the pieces on the board and they looked at Bridges. Maybe that's what they thought. We got Cat. Well, we didn't have Cat at the time.
When
we got Bridges.
No, because Bridges was a trade early in the summer.
We got
Cat was the last trade.
Yeah.
Who knows? They may have known that was a possibility. We don't know, but we need to surround Brunson with guys who can defend. We're gonna put OG on one side of him, and we're gonna put Mikal Bridges on the other side. That could have been their thinking, and so they felt like it was worth it. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying he shouldn't have to bear the brunt of the criticism for the picks. The Knicks chose to do that, not him. And then you look at Drew Holiday now. I mean, well, I'm not going to get on Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday did his thing for Milwaukee, and he did his thing for Boston. Yeah. All right, let me just get to some of the comments. Okay. JJ feels that why is he soft? Like, I think there's a difference between having a finesse game and being soft. Like, what to me, soft is mental. Like, what do you mean soft? Because he's not going in there and banging with. Is that his game? Is that his game? So if a player is playing their game and it's not a banging, bruising type game, he has a finesse type game, I don't think that makes them soft. Players that don't show up when the lights are the brightest consistently, to me, those are the soft players. Like, they just not mentally tough. Those that can't rebound from a bad game, those to me are the soft players, not mentally tough. But if you have a finesse game, to me, that doesn't make you soft. A-Train, it goes back to Tibbs' offensive schemes, not getting the best out of Mikal, but I don't know if it was Delusional or Ajay's point, maybe they don't see him that way. I think he has one of the higher offensive ceilings on this team. He's not even scratching the surface, in my opinion, on
I think
You know?
he's a system heavy offensive player. Like if you put him on Golden State, he can average 28 easily. You know, with the spacing and the cutting and the movement and the open threes, because the system itself will put you in a position to succeed rather than, you know, ISO heavies and
But
things of
that
that nature.
Delusional, wasn't that how we was playing to start the season?
Oh, we were, but like you said, I think Cat Knees kind of altered you know, those play sets, because like you said, he's kind of chucking the threes more rather than kind of, you know, hitting certain spots and passing. Like I gotta double check his stats to see what his passing looked like each game, but I don't think it's as high as it was early in the year. I think, like you said, our offensive set is just kind of different now. It was ball heavy, very ball heavy. JB wasn't averaging the amount of attempts that he's doing now. And that's, mind you, when we started the season, we wasn't even kind of full strength, you know, per se. So I guess once players started to go down, JB just felt that, okay, let me just be more aggressive. So
But that changes everything for us. It changes Josh Hart effectiveness. It changes Bridges. Because think about it. There was so much player movement, so much ball movement. How many 30 assist games did we had? Did we have?
oh yeah,
You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah.
And now we're back to, and I get it. It may be out of necessity. I'm not banging on JB. You know, he's gonna do what it takes for us to win. Because at this point in the season, you're just trying to stack wins, as
Get
many
the
as
win,
you can
correct.
get the best seeding you can, go into the playoffs, take your chances. So I'm not banging on him, but you could just see that the offense has changed. And that impacts other guys, and that's a lot of work for Jalen Brunson. We was trying to get away from that. It's a lot of work. Bring it up every single time, create for yourself every single time, create for somebody else every single time. Like, come on, that's a lot. And I don't think it has to be that way. I think we have other options. Mikal is closer to the player who played against the Spurs than the Mikal we've been getting for much of the season. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's Ajay's favorite
My
Mikal
game, right?
Bridges.
But
Game.
it was honestly,
It's my favorite Mikal Bridges outing game. Yeah.
it was perfect. I still watch those highlights to this day. It was perfect. Only because I wanted to see what offense were we running for Mikal. And a
Mhm.
lot of that offense was really high pick and roll, or he was just coming off of double screens and just getting to his mid-range spots.
Right,
Those are technically not play calls.
right.
So he wasn't really getting play calls.
Escape artists, appreciate you rocking with us. He can prove himself to be worth all those picks if he's correctly. Did I read that one already? Correctly utilized. Um. All right. Let's see. Brandon Williams, Hart gives up threes to his man so he can go get the rebounds. Okay. Tibbs gave away Grimes, shaking my head.
Grimes
I
is
mean,
killing.
yeah, but listen, I'm not gonna sit here and say Grimes is Mikal Bridges. I would have liked to have kept Grimes though. I thought I liked his upside and what he could be. I just felt like we were thrusting him into a role that he wasn't ready for. His second or third year in the league. Now we got him starting and we all upset with him because he's missing shots and he's not consistent. You're not going to be consistent your second and third year in the league. But he wanted more of an opportunity. And he got it. He's been balling lately for Philly, who's just decimated right now.
Yeah.
Man, speaking of Philly decimated, man. Queen, I was on Monday. I forgot to bring that up. How on the day that Mitchell Robinson comes back, it was announced that Jerrell Embiid was out for the season. I just wanted to bring that up, see how karma like hits. The same day, okay, Mitch come back, and that same day, Embiid found out like he was going to be out for the season. I just want to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on Bridges? So I mean, for me, I come down at the criticism is unfair, delusional. I would think you would think it's unfair, and Ajay would say you think it's fair.
No, I didn't say it's fair. I said I said I think he's going through like a bad stretch right now. But I said the criticism is probably because of how much we gave up for him. I didn't say it was fair. It's just how much we gave up for him. And you know how I felt about that trade. I didn't feel that he wasn't worth that much or we gave too much for him. I just felt that we were in a better negotiating position than we actually thought we were. Um, I felt we could have got him for less,
No way.
simply the Queen, simply because Mikal, it was common knowledge. It was out there. He only wanted to come to the Knicks. If they traded him to another team, he would have told the other team, "I'm not re-signing with you because I
But
want to."
he was 2 years from free agency though. Like that doesn't put no pressure on someone. Like if you're going in free agency that year, at the end of that season, yeah,
No,
that put pressures on.
it's not pressure, but I'm saying we could have. It could have been a better deal. It could have been 4 picks instead of 5. I'm saying it would still would have been a haul, but I think we could have probably got done a little bit better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think the Nets were budging. I don't think the Knicks came to the table with 5 picks. I'm pretty sure there was some negotiation, and I'm pretty sure the Nets said take it or leave it. You know, and if he's not going to sign with you, it's okay. He's under contract for 2 years. So if he's not going to resign, he's not going to resign. You know, that's not a lot of pressure if you're not going into free agency that summer. So anyway, J-Tap, my guy. I'm at the game right now, Queen. I'm going to every game. Oh, on this West Coast swing. That's what's up. Yeah, that's my aim for next season, to travel to more Knick games. Outside of New York, of course.
Oh, I was gonna say that's my goal too. MSG and Barclays. Those my travels. Maybe DC. I was at that game in DC that time.
Yes. And this was the 2 games I wanted to go to, the Lakers and the Clippers. Good for you, J-Tap. Enjoy your life, man. Enjoy your life.
What are they doing? They doing Lakers, Clippers, Golden State,
Sacramento,
Portland.
Oh my God. I hate them West
Coast. Tough ones.
No, not tough for me, bro. I got that means I go to sleep at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's tough for me.
Fritz Alcindor Jr. I saw you, Fritz, on with Uncle Freezy earlier today, getting me through work. People saying the Nets would take less. He doesn't think so. Leon Mitchell said completely different team next year. I mean, I think, listen, the Knicks can get off of Bridges. You can get off of OG, but the thing about it is you're not going to get back what you gave up. You're not getting, who you trading Bridges for. You're not getting back
Durant.
Oh my God, it's just delusional.
He said the Portland ticks were only $85, but I had to take out a second mortgage for the Clippers game.
The Clippers?
And I would think the Lakers game too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but the Golden State game is early though. By the way, it's not that
8:30.
Yeah, that one's not late, so that's good.
Yeah, 8:30. So that's about 5 hours. Anything else about Bridges? And we kind of talked about our offense, the change in the offense. Do you think this? So let's just talk about it a little more. Do you think the way we're playing offense right now is sustainable in the playoffs? Can be successful in the playoffs, and if so, how far do you think you can get? Because it's kind of reminiscent of our offense last season, and we did get within 1 game of the Eastern Conference Finals, but we transformed into a shooting team that was just out of our minds, despite the injuries. But is this an offense that gets you far into the playoffs, or is this an offense that's easy to stop?
You mind if I go at you, or you got it?
Oh no, go ahead.
It's 50-50 because I do say at the end of the crunch time, it's still a one-on-one game, to get those last buckets. So your best player is always lined up against, their best player to kind of knock down these shots. And we do have Captain, Clutch at the end of the day. But as far as a team aspect, we're very predictable, Queen. Very predictable on offense. And it's kind of easy to stop when we go with certain lineups. Like I said, with Josh Hart, him being reluctant to let it fly on the offense. So that's a player that that you can sag off. And then if they go with Josh Hart or Precious or even Mitch in those lineups, like you said, it even shrinks the court even more to where those two players can free roam and get on JB or Mitch to kind of stop that offense, or on Cat. We've seen times of where they double team Cat and he was turning the ball over, or he wasn't finding players at the right time. And that was shocking to me. Then we even saw when they put smaller guys on Cat and he couldn't capitalize in certain things. So all the teams are seeing ways. It feels like we have so many ways to fail than succeed on that offensive end. But I still have confidence in the guys to kind of prevail because, in that Philly series last year, we had a prominent shooter in how could I forget about my name? Ragu DiVincenzo. He changed the game for us because he was that head-on defender as well, but he was shooting a clip. He shooting 5 for 10 sometimes, 6 for 10, like he broke out 3-point record. So we don't have a player like that will stretch that floor that we would have to pretty much get up on. That changes the dynamic. Shooting really changes the dynamic. OG, remember I told you OG would get it back, but he's not all the time. OG's not all the time. He'll have his games where he'll give you 30, 40, but then it's 8, it's 16, right. 15, then he'll give you a 20. So the consistency, I need to see it. I don't want to be Jalen Brunson and Cat heavy. I want it to go back to the team basketball because then that's when I believe we'll be more effective.
Yeah, I think we do have better shooters around JB, right? So if it does go to, get to that, if Mikal is on in the corner, if OG is on in the corner and JB is getting into the lane and spraying it out and those guys are hitting shots, then yes. We think about Dallas they shot themselves all the way to the finals. Like all of a sudden it was like the faucet turned on and they were playing off of Luka and they was hitting everything. And they were able to make it all the way to the finals. Yeah, the Knicks would have to shoot like that off of JB creating for that to happen. But that's still a lot of work for JB, and that's a lot of pressure on your offense to consistently hit shots. We got out of that Philly series because Josh Hart turned into somebody else. Because they were intent on doubling JB, giving him a lot of attention, and leaving Josh Hart and let Josh Hart beat us, and he did. And by game 3, they had to change their strategy. So I don't know what Cat's going to be. I don't know why our offense has changed, and if it's because of Cat's injury and just not being able to do what he usually does. I don't know if that gets better the deeper you go into the season and the deeper you go into the playoffs, right? So I don't think it's a recipe for success, again, unless we just shoot lights out. Yeah. Ajay, your thoughts?
And with as inconsistent as we've been, I don't see us shooting lights out through the playoffs. So yeah, we're gonna have a few good games, but eventually, it's gonna die off. And if we, it's been like that all year. We've been inconsistent. That's really the main problem with this team. They aside from the fact that our defense is poor, but there's been a couple of good games where we play very good defense, very active, playing the passing lane, challenging everything, and Brunson getting charged and all that stuff. And then you don't see it for another 5, 6, 7 games. You don't have that luxury in the playoffs because you disappear for 4 games and you're out. That's all. You have a 4-game buffer where you mess up for 4 games, you're done. You're on vacation. So we just have to find that consistency. If we could find that consistency, which I don't think we will, I think no, we won't, because it
Tell us how
has
you feel, AJ.
I think
chemistry.
we will.
I don't think so. I mean, you got to remember, this is their first time together. So
Right.
it's gonna take, we forget that. We got to keep mentioning that this group, this is their first time they're playing together. So I don't think we're gonna find that consistency overnight. So it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong, but I do hear what you're saying. But I hope we catch lightning in a bottle. Teams have. Atlanta did one year, Dallas, Miami when they played Denver. So, hopefully, that's us. And the sense of urgency is going to increase for every team that makes it to
Queen. I hope I'm wrong too.
Yeah. Anything else about our offense? Anything you would like to see? I mean, we've kind of talked about it already.
Well, I'll throw this out, and hopefully I don't get tomatoes thrown at me. I want Hart out the lineup, right? And the reason for that is like you said, they usually kind of sags off, utilize his player to kind of trap Brunson, and he's kind of been hesitant for a while. And it's not like to say like I'm putting him on the bench to downplay or say that he's not, he's not a good player per se. Like, he's a solid player. Like, he's the heart of this team. We still need the energy. We still need the hustle. I just believe that if we put an additional shooter in that lineup, whether it's Deuce or even Shamit, you put additional shooter in that lineup, that kind of actually gives us spacing on the floor to actually utilize and move. There's really not no space. Even when we were in the beginning was killing, it was because he was kind of the primary ball handler, bringing the ball up, and everybody was facilitating and working off of him. And then of course Brunson had some actions. I just think that since he's not shooting the ball like we want him to, bring in someone that actually can. And we've seen it before when Deuce came in. Every time Deuce come in, he's knocking down these shots. Shamit now is starting to knock down his shots. So spice it up, switch it up with that. Even also with taking him out the lineup, don't run him with a big per se with Mitch or Precious. Have him primary be the guy when it's another scorer on the floor that can actually give him the lanes for him to attack. So it's different things that we could do on offense, but like everyone is saying, will Tibbs even make those adjustments? We're talking, the deaf ear right now. But I believe if we just make that tweak, Shamit playing great defense, mind you, probably playing better defense than Josh Hart. So if you add that additional shooting to that lineup, that starting lineup, I think it's a different ballgame.
Well,
okay.
No, I was gonna say, I think Tibbs is gonna somebody's coming out of the starting lineup, because Tibbs, he's going to find a way to put Mitch in that starting lineup.
No,
I don't
really.
Mitch is not the answer, though.
No, I'm Queen. This has nothing to do with the answer. This has to do with Tom Thibodeau will put that guy in the starting lineup.
Well, we're gonna get to the Mitch segment though.
That's what he wants to do. It doesn't have to be the answer. We may be worst off, but that's what he wants to do. That's what he's going to find a way to. And I think he'd probably take Josh Hart out the starting lineup. But I know that's not what you want, Delusional, because you want Hart to come out for somebody like Deuce or another shooter. But that's not what Tibbs going to do. Tibbs going to take Josh Hart and put like a Mitch in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we have a caller. I will say this real quick. Josh Hart was okay when Cat was Cat, and we had the spacing, and he wasn't being hesitant on offense. I thought he was fine, right? But we're talking about the offense now, with Cat playing a different role on offense, with more JB centric. He's being hesitant to shoot. Yeah, I think given where we are now, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I will say this. To me, it's not about starting. It's about the percentage of time you use certain lineups, whether they start or not. So can we see more lineups with Deuce in with the starters? Can we see more lineups with different configuration of players? To me, it's not necessarily who, because you can start and still play 10 possessions.
minutes,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So it's not even that. It's about can we see more of these lineups? But I got Lord Scientist there. Can you hear us? Yeah. Oh boy, is he not in? Yeah, hello? Oh, but he's not coming through. Wait.
Can I do a super chat real quick while you're doing that?
You could do it. Yeah, you could do a super chat. I'm trying to figure out why you're not coming through. Hold on.
Shout out to
Why you're not coming through the speaker, I mean.
Shout out to WizBKLA. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says,
yeah, can you do that?
Who scares you in the conference? Who scares you more, Bucks or Magic?
Ooh.
The Bucks. The Magic can't score. They're a good defense team, though.
Well, the healthy Magic was giving us trouble early in the year.
You know what?
So we were 3-0 against them, though.
Queen,
This year?
because we 3-0 against a team who had one starter in their lineup and then 4 bench plays.
That wasn't for every game, though. That wasn't for every game.
I don't think we played Bencaro this year.
Bencaro is sucking right now.
68299011801. Call from
Lord Scientist, Brooklyn.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
So, Lord Scientist, before I bring you on, when I
Hello?
spoke to him, hi, you're on the air, but I want to say this before you start talking. When I spoke to him yesterday, he said, stop saying I'm from Texas. He said, I'm from Texas. I'm forced to be in Texas. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm like, well, we have a lot of people from Brooklyn who live in different parts of the country. So we say, Texas by way of Brooklyn. So now he going to come on today and say, Lord Scientist from Brooklyn. Go ahead, Lord Scientist. What you got?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to represent Flatbush to the fullest. You know what I mean?
Flatbush.
Rogers. But anyway, hey, yo, salute, RJ. Salute, Delusional.
Hey, man, what's up, Lord Scientist?
Salute, Geoff, because I know he listening, and Tony Crow, and the hottest DJ. You know what I mean? Hey, yo, listen. What I want to say is this. I'm going to try to keep it simple because somebody else might want to call. It's like, number one, the defense. Like you said, they're not on the string. That's the first thing. They gotta put forth that effort to accomplish that mentality of being the capable defense that they can do it. Their body language is making it seem like they're not really interested. They're not trying. Because as long as everybody arms is, like, everybody got a nice wingspan. If they on that string, that changes things. So another thing is, like with Mikal, sometimes it seems like Mikal is on mentally, he's in it and he's going to do what he do. Other times, like I think Ajay was saying, is like the Delusional was saying that he's hustling and guarding the best player on defense, and then when he come down the court, he making moves and getting open and the ball's not swinging to him. So that, that affects a person playing too, not trying to make excuses, but like, I'm listening to the Golden State game, and I'm wondering why Mikal ain't dogging Steph. I'm telling you, when I had spoke to you yesterday, I'm like, yo, he's taller than him. He's bigger than him. Yo, he get him in foul trouble. Like, the whole it's like different times there's weaknesses that's going on in a game, and we're not exploiting those weaknesses for easy buckets, easy points. And that's, to me, another factor with the offense. So the two issues I see is, one, we're not capitalizing on the talent we got with ball movement like we were doing when we got 30 assists. Yo, it's a whole different game. Like, and it becomes a camaraderie. You know what I'm saying? It becomes a brotherhood in a sense, like, yo, I'm going to hit Mikal because I know he about to cut off this pick. You already know he going to be there. Give it to him. Give it to, Cat. Josh, listen, Josh is open. take them threes. Like,
Right.
this is normal basketball IQ for anybody to even play ball in the playground. Like, so the peaks and valleys we be going through, I be thinking it's more of a mental thing. You know what I'm saying? That's happening, a mental lapse for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point because when you look at them, they all seem to have good basketball IQ, you know, but when they get on the court offensively, I'm like, well, you know, like my saying is we leaving a lot of meat on the bone. Like we not taking advantage to your point.
Okay, you know, listen, we've been doing that all
Yeah,
season.
and another thing, like we've been doing that all season. Like one moment we'd be playing a game and it looked like we got it. You know what I'm saying? And then the next game be coming, it's like they went to the club the night before.
And
That could
Queen,
be an option.
Queen, Queen, how many games we play?
Yeah,
And,
like
no, and sorry, and I text
go
Queen.
ahead,
I'm like, well, how could listen? Cat they got a little guy on him. Like,
Yeah.
why are they not exploiting this? I don't know how many games they have. Like some little 6'5" guy on Cat, and then he's not getting the ball, or he's getting the ball, he's dishing. Nah, man, you got to take that guy to the basket with you. Put him through the hoop. You know, we've done that all season. I don't know why.
that way they won't put him back on him again.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
Right.
going to make the defense respond to what you want.
Right.
And another point, and then I'm going to go. Another thing about the Golden State game, I like when Tibbs had the lineup in with OG. I think he had OG too long from the end of the third going into the fourth. OG should have came out at the 10-minute mark. Came back in at like the 7 or the 6-minute mark. Because the way people were talking as I'm listening to the play-by-play, you could tell OG was looking tired.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was looking like he didn't have no more to finish. So I'm like, why Deuce didn't come back in the game?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's moments where Deuce is in the game and he's active, he's live, hands up, moving, tapping the ball on passes, like getting steals. And I'm like, yo, as much as he grinding and hustling, man, let him get in there because he's a spark. Any spark changes the momentum.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. He did close the game,
So,
though.
yeah, on
the
that
past
note-
2 games, no?
Huh?
Did McBride close the last 2 games? I
don't
did.
think he
I did
closed
fall
the Golden
asleep.
State.
I gotta say, I fell asleep. I watched it again the next morning. But when I felt like we was losing with like 3 minutes left, I was like, all right, this is
You know what that means, right? Queen, tonight's game, Queen catching the first quarter.
I'll catch the rest of the morning.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Lord Scientist.
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if he finished, but yeah, I'm gonna go and I appreciate y'all doing what y'all doing. And AJ, y'all held it down when the Queen was gone.
Thank
I had my daughter trying to help me type in the chat, but y'all did excellent. And
Thanks,
yo, salute to Jay Boogie. Salute to Nothing But Knicks. You know what I mean? Sam, Tony Crow, and I'm out.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for the
appreciate
call.
you.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah.
Queen, that is a good point, though, man. I don't know. Like we've been. I mean, like you said, we've been leaving so much meat on the bone all season long. There are games we going in. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be barbecue chicken, fam. Man, Cat completely disappears. Like
Yeah.
we don't take advantage of these matchups, man.
Yeah.
I think our usage on Cat might be too much, honestly.
now or
as-
just
I believe now. Yeah, I believe now. Because kind of looking at certain Golden State Minnesota, how they utilize Cat, it's not like this. I mean, there's a reason why his stats are higher this year is because his usage it's a lot more higher. So I don't know. Would that have wear and tear on him? Going forward. I don't know.
That's a good point. Do you think, before I get to D Block's comment, would you like to see Bridges have more usage and Cat be like third in usage?
Well, remember I said in the last one, I said I actually want to have JB as the 1, Bridges at the 2, as far as scoring more possession wise, and Cat kind of get the third rotation. Like, granted, flow of the game. We talked about it.
Right,
If it's flow of the game, and it makes sense. But if you go to Cat, remember, Cat, there's been certain games Cat is not starting off fresh. but we still going to him. I'm like, no, guys, let's mix it up. Like, he could get his touches later on, but let's see what Mikal got right now. Let's see what this is happening. But we're still going to that, and he's, oh my God, throwing it off the backboard and stuff. I'm just like, all right, come on, Cat. Come on, Cat.
And one.
Come on. Get back on D. Stop worrying about that play now. And then, of course, they get a transition bucket. But I just think, like you said, there's certain games where he's coming out in that first 3 knock. Okay, so we got something cooking. Let's see how it goes. But if you start and then you 1 for 5, 1 for 6, all right, guys, let's rotate. Let's see what else. Because like you said, it was the Sixers game, Ajay, that you was talking about where Mikal started off first half hot, barely missed. Second half, where you only have 4 points to 2 points.
I think he had 0.
Right, but
it might have been 0. I'll check, but I remember his scoring. He barely touched the ball in that second half.
It's like, come on, like that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah. D block 1755, because between Tibbs and our players, we have low IQ as a whole. We never can sustain court awareness to take advantage of certain players. We don't play with no urgency or consistency, period. It sure looks that way when in terms of urgency. Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about Mitch and then this game tonight. So Mitch has been back. I think the last time we was here, we knew he was coming back, but he hadn't played a game yet. Am I correct? The last time we had the show. All right. So he's played 3 games so far. What have we seen? What have we seen?
That's you, Roger.
Well, I feel like I've had this. Oh, that probably was Monday, Queen. On
right. The show was just run together.
Yeah. No, and I said I expected him to be more rusty than he actually was. It looks like he's getting in the flow of the game pretty good. They're not playing him a lot of minutes, which is good, because knowing Tibbs, it could have been like throw him out there for 35 minutes. But thank God he's not doing that. And even with Cat out and with the Huck Porty out for the season, he managed to not play. I think he played maybe 15, 16 minutes the last game. So he's still really keeping it low. So I like the fact that he's not pushing them. Maybe he's seen the bigger picture, like kind of aiming for the playoffs. And I absolutely love the fact that they're bringing him slow. After the first game, the first couple of games, it was pretty good. Looks like he was there, but then it looks like his timing was off a little bit in the last game. I mean, you could tell like and it's not that of course it has to do with the team we were playing, because these guys are like they're very well-oiled machine on offense. Like a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on. So it was a little bit too much for Mitch. He didn't have a great defensive game. I mean, he was almost out there, just be out there. Didn't really have an impact on the game, but again, that's because of the team we were playing. They're like a offensive juggernaut. But otherwise, I like what I see from Mitch, and I think probably by the end of this month, man, things gonna ramp up, and he's gonna be much better. He's gonna fit much better with this team. And Delusional, I think Tibbs gonna find a way to put him in the starting lineup. I'm not kidding. Like I said, may not be there right there. We're probably gonna pull in our hair out. Like, no, what are you doing? But I think that's just what he's gonna do. He's gonna figure out a way to throw him in there.
I mean, if we experiment at the end of the year with going with a big lineup, then I will have a problem with him testing it out. But if you're talking just throw him in here now and sticking with it, I don't know yet. But I am a huge advocate for the big lineup.
Yeah. I think and I said this on Queen's Court Monday, what excited me more about Mitch is not necessarily the defense. I think, it's been hit or miss. He's had some really good impact, some block shots, and then some other times on the defensive end where his timing, was off. Like Kevin, not Kevin, Ware from Miami. He killed all of us, Mitch included, whatever lineup was in there in that first half. But I'm not worried about Mitch on the defensive end. I think once he gets his legs underneath him, once he, is fully integrated in the team, we know what Mitch can give us. There's no surprise there. I think it's on Tom Thibodeau to use him in those right lineups, like against, you were saying, Ajay, he didn't have any impact on the game yesterday, but that's not a game for Mitch. And we were down Cat, so you had to play him maybe. But I got to be honest, I would have went with Precious and OG at the 5, and I wouldn't have played Mitch. I wouldn't have played Mitch much at all because they pull him away from the rim. You don't get the rim protection anyway. But anyway, I'm not worried about Mitch on the defensive end. What I was encouraged about was the first game back when, he turned and went to the basket for the slam, and he didn't look like he was wibbly wobbly when he made that turn. It was a sharp turn, and he went to the basket. He dunked it. He ducked into the lane. They gave him the ball. It was a very efficient drop step, and he laid the ball in. And then there were some possessions where they gave him the ball in space, and this has been my issue with Mitch, who doesn't even turn toward the basket. They gave him the ball in space. He turned around. He moved the ball. He gave it to the next. So I'm like, okay, all right. That is what excites me about Mitch. And I don't know if this is Mark Bryant, who they brought in specifically to work with the big men, who's really working with him on his drop step and his offensive awareness, because in the playoffs, just like you could take advantage of Cat, on the defensive end, you can take advantage of Mitch on the offensive end in terms of certain lineups that you put in. And that's on Thibodeau. And it's unfortunate for our team that we got so many one-way players. Defensive liability, Mitch, offensive liability, Precious, it's but this is where we are. So that's on Thibodeau, the Mitch and Matt. Like, we're not Boston, where they're all 5 of their players are offense and defense, right? That's just not who we are. So we got to mix and match lineups. But that part of Mitch's game encourages me because I feel like that makes him less of a offensive liability. You got to tend to Mitch now, not just the vertical, which we're not taking advantage of, as much. But if he can get down in the post, duck into the post against a smaller guy, and you give him the ball, like, all of these things mean that you got to pay attention to Mitchell Robinson. That helps you on the offensive end the deeper you go into the playoffs. So that's what I was most encouraged about from watching Mitchell Robinson. I know what he can do defensively when he's right.
Let's get into Mitch, my guy. So I was very impressed, Mitch. I'm happy that they gave him all this time off to kind of come back and do his thing and not be hesitant mentally, because that's the first thing to come back from an injury, and he has multiple injuries. How's your mental? And he looks like he's been pretty good. I mean, first the game that we was talking about, the last game, I believe the Golden State game was the game to kind of really play him more because of you had Draymond on him, Queen, and it's been a couple of plays. Like, remember when you said when you first saw Mitch, when it was 5 out and Brunson dropped him the ball in the post, he was literally right up under the rim, easy basket. Then there was another one where he caught it, pump fake, went up with the left hand. Mitch is versatile with the left and right, so he can score with both hands in the post. So I don't think it's a liability in that. It's just who he's playing with on that end to space the floor and give him the opportunity to attack. I think that he didn't have that opportunity. They didn't give him that opportunity. So if he does, I believe he can easily, Queen, average 11. Easily. Very easily.
Not just off of offense. I think he can too off of offensive rebounds, but you're saying them.
Oh no, with him getting touches.
Okay.
With him getting touches. You saw that. I mean, he's 1 for 1 for the free throw, but you saw the free throw touch was different. He didn't have that hitch. It was a fluent dribble, pick up, flick. So me seeing that, I'm like, okay, he has been working. Before, he had like a little hitch on that shot. So his form is a little different now. Yeah. So I'm like, that shows a lot. And I do value myself as a shooter. Check out my Twitter. I got a couple videos of me, putting in the work. So I know a thing or two about jump shots.
AI delusional.
I look, hey, either way, it still look good. Either way, it's good. So with Mitch, I'm definitely happy. Then, of course, when we played Miami, he came back on that block shot against Miami was very crucial because someone got beat. He helped on the backside, literally at the top of the backboard. Those are plays before that we wouldn't have got. Hakoporti was doing that late when he was getting opportunities, but we wasn't showing that with Cat. I'm saying that deterrent is very vital, very important with Mitch. So I'm definitely glad that he's back. We're definitely going to need that tonight going against the Lakers. Lord knows that's a whole nother topic for tonight.
Well, the thing about the Lakers, see, I hear what you're saying. You could take advantage of him on the offensive end,
right?
Because they don't have centers. But then on the defensive end, he has to guard somebody away from the rim, and that helps to create the space for them too. So it
well, really though, because with Mitch, Queen, just your opinion on it. With Mitch, you don't think Mitch can hang with certain forwards and certain small forwards, and even certain two guards?
Maybe now that he dropped some weight, I don't. I no. But I'm not talking about him switching out and having to move laterally on the perimeter. I'm talking about them pulling him away from the basket, and so the rim protection is not there, and the spacing. That's there's hardly any rotation because he's stretched out.
Well, I think it's good because if they're drawing him out, now we have OG, who's a great help defender on certain sides. Mikal, we haven't really seen that as much on the wing because he's usually the one that's gluing to the other major offensive player. So it's a give or take, and then of course it's a stint. It's going to be a short period of time. He's not going to be getting that, but. Mitch gives you a different dynamic that the starters don't have. I believe you always need a big paint presence. So let's look at Memphis. Memphis going. They have JJ, who's a small forward. I mean, the power forward, who occasionally they bring at the center to stretch the floor, but they go with Zach Edey, who's a big body presence. That's good. Algoon, he's not a great, big post player defensive wise, but they're still a solid defensive team. They make it work. So there's different elite teams that have different lineups that they can utilize. I just think Mitch brings us that dynamic as well.
No, I agree with you. If we're talking about just roster versatility, rotational versatility, I'm all with you.
Yeah.
But if you in the deep in the playoff, you're not getting away with Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson for 30 minutes a game. You're just not.
Why not, Queen? Why not? Look.
I don't know as much about Zach Edey. If Zach Edey has an offensive game and you have to tend to him, then maybe you can get away with it. But in this day and age, everybody on the floor has to be an offensive threat. Right. If not, they're going to use your guy to muck things up. That's what I'm saying. Even as well as Cleveland is playing, there's going to be times when they're going to have to put Mobley at center
at the 5,
and sit and sit Jared Allen. So if you're talking about the versatility to do both, I'm all for it. If you're talking about just taking Mitch next to Cat for 30 minutes a game,
But why not though? And this is what I say. You still have a spaced out offense because the only player that's technically in the post is Mitch, right? Mitch is usually the one that's initiating the pick and roll on JB. You still got Cat that's out. You still have Mikal and OG that's spacing the floor. That's technically a spaced out offense. Think
Mitch guy is he out? So when we have Karl Anthony Towns, Cat at the top of the key, his guy is at the top of the 3-point line, the top of the circle.
Well, Queen, I'm not running that play if I have that lineup though.
Right. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is if you have Mitch on the dribble handoff, where's his guy? His guy, you don't have to.
I'm not running that dribble handoff action, Queen. If I'm running that, we running high pick and roll. My guys are spaced out. You're either going to trap Brunson and you got Mitch rolling,
Okay.
or you're going to stay with Mitch, Brunson going to execute
Okay.
on his end. So now you got to stop that first. Let me see you stop that first, right? And if you drop and use the weak coverage, now I got OG open, or I got Mikal if he's on that corner, and vice versa. Stop that first, and then we can adjust. That's what I was saying. That initial pick and roll is deadly when you have Cat and everyone else kind of spaced out. Because I think that's what you was primarily saying, is that if we're running the handoff and then we have to do that, oh yeah, now we're not running that 1980s Tibbs play. You know, that's the difference. Tibbs need to up that pen game up and create better plays with the players that you have. So yeah, dude, I see what you're saying. With that play, 100%. And that offense that we run, you 100%. That's dead in the water. That's dead in the water.
We'll see. I think the playoffs is a game of chess, and it does come down to execution. It does come down to schemes, but it a lot of times it comes down to roster too. You gotta have the players that can execute, because it's all about taking advantage of deficiencies. And if you're in a 7-game series, or it may not go 7, but a playoff series, there's enough time to counter. There's enough time to look like there's no surprise. It's like people kill me. Oh, we gotta go with this new play that nobody saw. There's no surprises in the playoffs. Everybody is well scouted, mano on mano. Counter. I mean, it's about scheme. It's about execution. It's about guys being able to show up and show out when the lights are bright. It's not about any type of trickery when you get into the playoffs. So we shall see. I feel like we got a good offensive team and a good defensive team, but we don't got both. So we shall see. Anything about tonight's game before we get out of here? It's 9:55, and it's on TNT, so they may start. We might not get that 10-minute grace we get on MSG.
Well, because it's the second game of a back-to-back, so it probably will start
A little late.
No, on time.
On time.
Unless the first game runs over.
Yeah.
Why, Queen? We're gonna win that game. The only reason we're gonna win is on Monday. Remember, I told you worst case scenario go 1-2, or we're gonna go 2-1. I said probably 3-0. We might lose a game, so we already lost that game. So we have to win the next 2 to make my 2-1 a reality. So I don't know how we gonna do it. Cat not playing again tonight, right?
Cat is back.
Oh, he's back. Oh man, please, that's a dub. Come on, please. Tomorrow's game, the only problem is it's back to back, but otherwise,
yeah. Anything delusional about tonight?
Tonight is going to be a challenge. Anytime you go up against LeBron, he picks us apart. And then of course you got Luka, who gave us 60 and 20 and 21 night. I forgot what it was. He gave us with that 60-point triple-double. And the thing about these guys are, and what JJ Redick has done with that team, JJ is he runs a system, right? And these guys adapt to it. And then they pick apart the mismatches. So they have a game plan for us tonight. And I'm really kind of eager to see, because I know JJ, he's into his X's and O's. And that's pretty much what we're going to see tonight, is an X and O game. And is Tibbs up for the matchup? Like, this is truly a battle. Is Tibbs up for the X and O matchup? That's what I'm looking for tonight. And I think Austin Reeves is back as well. So that's another player that we have to worry about that can create for itself. And that's, yeah, it's going to be a long night for us. But I think with Cat coming back, hopefully, hopefully he doesn't still have the ailing passing that's on his brain. That can definitely have an effect on him as well. So let's hopefully we pull it out.
Yep. Shout out to the chat. You guys have been super active. I appreciate you. Knicks 100. Paris Duggar was in the house. Double D, Leon Mitchell, Knicks 100 at GM, B Willis, Lonnie Meeks, A-Train was in the house.
A-Train.
Yes, East Blue Drew, Lord Scientist who called in. I appreciate you, my brother, by way of Brooklyn. You don't want to say, Rick James, I appreciate you. I'm not gonna get to everybody. Wiz, I appreciate you for the
Super
the
chat.
super chat. I need you to up that the next time. I want to be able to get a donut with my coffee.
Queen, you know how to get him to get. Just talk good, say good stuff about Deuce, and he'll
Right. JJ, always a pleasure. Code D Grant. I'm not gonna get to everybody. Escape artists. Fritz, appreciate you. Those who I miss, I appreciate you. There's no show without the chat. Aj Delusional.
Yes.
You know, hopping in straight from work.
Straight from work.
I appreciate you, and catch me Monday. Me, Geoff, Lady and the Chef, Tony Crow, Aj, whoever else want to join Monday on Nothing But Knicks, the Queen's Court, 7:30 p.m. You know, unless there's a emergency strain, you know, so keep that notification on.
Yeah, and hit the like button on the way out.
Yeah, definitely. All those listening on Twitter too, we appreciate you. Appreciate you as well. It's actually half and half. 67 on YouTube, 66 on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Until next time, family.
Peace.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's her.
shine. Don't so,
Where you at? Where you at?
don't so,
Where you at? Where you at?
don't so.